Hey everyone, my name is Ryan Griggs, and I am the host of the Regenaissance podcast. Alongside me is Christina Clinton from Fafo Farms TX. Thank you guys for joining.
Thanks for having us.
So I guess just to get started if you just have a general introduction to you guys and your farm.
Well, we moved here very recently in June 10th, 2023. Our goal was immediately to hit the ground running and start a regenerative farm because we know that from the history of where we bought, unfortunately, it's been pretty much stripped. A lot of monocropping and stuff like that, just growing hay to grow hay for your animals. So we started hitting the ground running. We started out with pasture poultry and chicken tractors and kind of doing the Joel Salatin model, if you know what that is. And we started moving into raw milk and dairy because we love raw milk and dairy. And unfortunately, it's kind of hard to find unless you know the right people or you want to drive 2 hours one way and then drive 2 hours like another way back. So we're like, why don't we just do it for ourselves and then eventually be able to provide the community with what we love and kind of educate people on what they're actually putting into their bodies as well when it comes to like pasteurized milk and processed foods.
Yeah, so I'm curious with both of you, do you have a background in agriculture or what led you to the path? Yeah.
No, she ran her own business in California doing windshield repair, and she's contracted with a lot of the local dealerships in the Bay Area. And then myself, prior military background, then I worked for the Department of Defense for a couple of years. And then I went back to school for cybersecurity network software. Then the school shut down a semester before I graduated with my bachelor's. So then I ended up in the solar industry, and then I did solar sales for about 8 years, ran my own company for 2 years, and then ran for city council. And then after that, we said we're done with the city life, and we moved out to rural Texas and started a farm with zero knowledge.
Well, we had some knowledge.
Zero knowledge, no knowledge.
Okay.
Well, I'm curious then, what made you want to just dive into all of that?
Just more so being self-sufficient, and so seeing where everything was kind of going with society, and just how unhealthy food is at grocery stores. Like there's this facade of you're buying organic, but is it really organic when it's coming from China and they're not actually inspecting that food? Like most people don't even realize that Whole Foods sells Chinese produce, not American produce. And so when it says organic on it, are you really getting organic food? So we just wanted to have holistically good food. And so we started out with buying food from a rancher. And so we buy from them, K&C Cattle out in Austin area.
Yeah, we went meat-based carnivore for about a year strictly.
I'd say we're about 8 months now on carnivore diet. And it's just been amazing. I mean, it dropped over 100 pounds. Inflammation's down, and then we got into the raw milk, and so we're like, okay, well, like we know a way to generate money on a farm is to raise chickens, but like what other avenues can we do in using our land the best way to maximize our dollars?
And also just raise things that we enjoy. Like we love pasture poultry, we love raw milk. Like it's nice to be able to just like literally we'll milk Daisy in the morning, and then we'll have breakfast and we'll have raw milk that we just like milked. Like that's awesome. Amazing. I wish I could give that experience to more people.
Yeah, no. So I have a lot that I want to talk about specifically with raw milk, but before that, I'm really curious because people have already asked me about thinking about starting their own regenerative ranch. So I'm curious, whenever you were searching, because you said you want to get out of the city life, what all were you researching in terms of, I guess, places to move to? What was that process like, trying to figure out, where to go and then whenever you made the final decision?
So the first thing that I looked at were flood zones. So making sure that I was not going into historical flood zones, because we've seen where a lot of farmers, especially in California, they're getting decimated by the floods. So we knew we wanted to avoid that issue. That was the first thing that we looked into. And then just what are the soil types in your zone area? So, I mean, Texas is so big. I can be in East Texas and have really, really rich soil, but then I can be in Northwest Texas and have dry, sandy loam, clay. So you just want to figure out what you want to be doing on your land and then what type of soil is needed. Now, the land that you may buy may not be perfect for those certain standards, so you may need to do some regenerative a methodology on it to bring it back to where it needs to be, but at least you're in that zoned area where the soil can get back to that area.
Yeah. Also, just like talking to people who farm out here, we were really lucky we actually met another.
But they would have to do that. We didn't do that before we moved.
No, but when we were looking,
we did that after we moved. So you can't.
No, but
I know, but you can't use that technique if we didn't talk to people until after we moved.
But when we were looking at houses at different places, when we hadn't bought this property yet, we did find a regenerative farmer in Permila, where we are, and we talked to him.
We already moved.
No, we hadn't.
We were already in the process of moving. Your parents put in an offer.
No, we haven't yet. Okay. We can agree to disagree.
So I'm curious then too, so you bought the property. What was the plan whenever you, I guess, first had that property because you said as soon as you got here, you hit the ground running. Did you have a formal plan, or did you just have a couple things that you wanted to do and you just started going at it and you would just learn as you go? I was curious what that process looked like.
Ideas of what we wanted to do. And so it really started out with buying the big animal. So it was buying the cow. And then after we got the cow, she wanted to get a mammoth donkey just as a protector on the pasture. So we ended up getting a mammoth donkey just for that purpose. And then we got goats because we wanted to try doing goat milk soap. And then tried the raw goat milk, and I actually prefer that over raw cow's milk. It just sucks that they don't produce as much. So we're getting about 1 quart to 2 quarts a day. The majority of that is going to making soap, so we freeze it. And then after we've gotten the animals, then it was like, okay, next is chickens. So we want to get Cornish crosses. Bought those, did our first batch. It's like, oh, these are extremely small. So the next batch that we bought were the Cornish cross XLs, or they call them jumbos. And so just figuring out what type of bird that we would want to go with. And then building the tractors for that at the same time. So tried Joe Salatin's chicken tractor. Now from after what I've heard from other people that know him personally, that the wood that he uses, he mills himself from his property. So it's actual 2x4s, not the 2x4s that you buy at Home Depot or Lowe's. So all the wood that we bought compared to his blueprints don't look similar to his. So ours was falling apart, which sucks, but it is what it is.
It works.
It works still. And then I built my own with no plans, found some upgrades that needs to happen. So we'll have version 2 probably in the next month. And then I'll probably find some other better ways to improve that until we get to a one that actually works for us, because Joe Salatin's chicken tractors are just way too big for us, especially with my military injuries, to be dragging that around. So we have to downsize it to where it's holding, instead of 50 birds, it's only holding 20 birds at a time.
Yeah, it's all a learning process.
Yeah, no. Whenever I was on the farm, I was only there for 2 months, and the amount that you learn just in that time is insane.
Oh yeah.
I'm curious then, whenever you switched the types of chickens you were buying, were you just sourcing that locally, or I guess if you can just expand on that process too, whenever you're buying the chickens? So
the chickens, with the meat birds, we used a hatchery that Joe Salatin uses, and
Justin Rhodes uses.
Justin Rhodes uses.
McMurray Hatchery.
Yeah, McMurray Hatchery is a well-known hatchery for buying Cornish crosses, but they're just a reseller. They don't actually breed them themselves. And then for all the other chickens, we buy from local farmers around here, just so we could support them, because getting those Cornish crosses is basically a patent, and so there are only a select few hatcheries that actually sell them on mass production.
Yeah, like all our Rhode Island Reds, we were able to source locally, which is nice.
I get them from dogs. They came with the Cornish crosses.
Oh, you're right. Forgot about that.
So whenever you're, I guess, visiting these other local farms that have the hatcheries, are there certain questions or qualities or characteristics that you're looking for, or what helped you make that final decision?
I just look at their living condition, seeing how well they're being taken care of. Outside of that, I just want to make sure that they're close to me, so I'm not having to drive 2 hours to go to a hatchery to pick them up. So we found 3 individuals in the area. One's pretty far. We've met with a couple times, but he's too far of a drive now since we've left Austin. And then we got one that's about 45 minutes and another one that's an hour that we haven't gone to yet. Probably won't because we like the other guy that we've already met with. He has a great infrastructure and pretty some unique setups for his chickens on how he waters them. He has some pretty cool water systems set up. And then how his breeding coops are pretty cool as well. And he's got some unique chickens. Like he has that all black chicken.
Amani Surmaya.
Yeah, it's like it has the black meat, black beak, everything about the chicken is black. Which I thought
I've seen that before.
Cool.
I know, they're crazy looking.
So I mean, we've met 2 people that have them, and they both have roosters, but neither one of them have hens. So it's like one of you needs to get a hen, so you can, and then we'll buy both of them, and then we'll start breeding those because they're unique.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious. Then you bought those newborns, and you brought them to your farm. I guess could you just go the process of from that to whenever they're processed and what that's like?
So basically, first thing in the morning, eat breakfast, go start doing the morning chores, and so we call it our main birds that are on the back side of the house, and then we got she calls them the Boberts because they're big-breasted, like Lauren Boebert or whatever her name is, her first name is. So the big-breasted Boberts, and so they get moved.
Those are our Cornish cross jumbos.
Cornish crosses, jumbos.
They're already 3 times the size of our first Cornish crosses. And I also want to say this because I didn't know this. Someone told me on the back end. If you're trying to raise meat birds in Texas during July and August, they're going to turn out small because they're using all that energy to stay alive and stay cool. They're not using that energy to grow big. So probably, depending on the weather, we may take July and August off next year because raising them in 110, 112, sometimes 115 degree heat, like we were out there like just trying to keep them alive, like putting ice in their water, like trying to just make sure they stayed alive. And they all lived, most of them, except for the ones that got by predators. But none of them died from the heat.
Yeah, none died from heat, but the ones that did die, all predators. So yeah, we'll move the chicken tractor 1 full length in the morning, and then in the evening, so around 5 o'clock, we'll start our evening chores. Go out and milk the goats. Make sure all the waters and feeders are still topped off. And then we'll move the 2 chicken tractors again for the second time. That way they're getting a fresh patch of grass because our soil and the pasture isn't regenerated. We haven't done planting any seeds yet to get all that native grass in. So it's a lot of like I'd say thorn bushes and
random weeds. Very weedy.
Random weeds. So there's not a lot of grass for them to feed off of. So we have to move them twice a day. But once we plant seeds, which we plan on not doing this fall because we don't know because of how hot it was, I'm afraid it's going to be really, really cold this winter. And so I don't want to spend $2,000 on seeds when we're already spent more money than we thought we were going to from the mistakes that we learned from. So we're going to wait till the spring to plant the grasses, but we're going to go with the summer native grasses that are drought resistant. And we'll go probably with about 13 to 15 different seeds, but we got to contact the local university to figure out what native grass is to buy for this zone because they already, I think it's A&M.
Yeah, A&M.
So Texas A&M, their ag department actually has put together seeds for each zone of Texas.
Native grasses.
And I learned that from one of the guys at our local church.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Also, like, really get to know your community because we've had people, like, just being here for, like, 3 months. We've had people come out and offer their seed drills. They're like, hey, I'll come out to your farm and we can look at your soil. Hey, I'll come out to your farm. We can look at, like, let's see what we can do as, like, a community to help you. And we met some people and they made some stuff for us, like, just out of the goodness of their heart. And, of course, we returned always in kind because we love giving. But it's just, like, it's crazy how when you have, like, a similar mindset to someone, they will go, like, the extra length for you just because you're basically their neighbor.
Yeah, that's probably the first thing I recommend anybody to do is, like, get tied into your community as soon as you get into the area where you're going to live. And that's going to start with your church.
It's either your church or, like, Clint's part of the Lions Club, and we didn't know this, but one of the main ladies of the Lions Club is the master gardener for Texas A&M.
For Texas A&M, Central Texas.
Yeah, so she's like, here, take my card. I'll come over sometime. And I'm like, really? Like, I'm like Dobby with a sock when people are like giving to me. I'm like, thank you so much. I'm just like super full of gratitude. It's crazy.
I mean, that's awesome too. That was one thing I noticed. So the farm I worked on was in Pennsylvania.
Nice.
And it was surrounded by a lot of Amish. And they always communicated and were very friendly with the farm owner that I stayed with. And so that's really crucial. And that's a good point because with you guys, for example, you're starting out. None of this is your background. You weren't raised on a farm or a ranch. And so you're just throwing yourself in the weeds. And so it's really awesome to see people are helping you out with all of that.
Oh yeah, we're like more than willing. Even the gentleman in Pramila who also raises meat birds, who we're kind of like tiptoeing because we don't ever want to step on anyone else's toes. But he's like, hey, I actually want to partner with you guys.
Yeah, because
we want to work together.
His main business is actually not pastured poultry. It's something he kind of does on the side because he doesn't like doing it.
Yeah, he hates it.
He hates it. But he likes doing goat meat, and he makes his own spices and his own vanilla extract, and so he's more into like, what would you say?
I'd say like farming agriculture.
Yeah, he's more farming agriculture and like spices for foods that he likes to do.
Yeah.
So with this being 3 months, then have you processed chickens already then too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what was it, 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
We did 60 birds 2 weeks ago. And so it took us about 4 hours to process all birds, to do 60 between the two of us, and then about another hour to put them away in the storage bags.
Yeah.
Do you need any type of certification to do that?
No.
No, you do though if you want to sell them or I don't think it's fine if you give them away, but if you want to sell them, you have to have an exemption from the state.
Yeah, so an exemption if you're processing under 10,000.
Yeah. Which we're 2 people on one farm, so I don't think we're going to be processing more than 10,000 birds.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even at our peak, when we have our business doing very well
and set,
I don't think that we're going to exceed maybe 8,000. That's a lot.
That's a lot of birds.
It's a lot of birds. Yeah. Especially since we're going to have multiple different products. We'll probably cap ourselves off about 5,000 birds just between the two of us. Now, if we hire part-time or we get people that want to come out and volunteer to process to get their own free chicken, then I've talked to other people, that's what they do out here. Is like, I'll come out for 3-4 hours and help out, and I'll get 2 free chickens out of it.
So with the fact that there's not a whole lot of grass and whatnot, how are you making sure they're fed?
So with the food, we went out and we bought 6 rolls of hay. And so we bought that in June, and we still have about 2.5 rolls left. And then we buy feed, non-GMO blended pellet corn feed. And so that runs us about $260 a month just in the feed for the goats, the cow, and the donkey.
That's sweet.
And then with the chickens, we buy a pallet at a time, and they're the ones that are expensive to feed, are the chickens.
Yeah.
Because that's about $750 to $790 a month just to feed the chickens.
Wow.
Yeah, and also sourcing stuff where people aren't spraying everything constantly is really hard.
Yeah,
I bet. Once we get the grass growing, more bugs will be going through the soil and the grasses, and the grass will be higher for the chickens to eat. So we won't have to feed the chickens as much, which would drastically cut down on our feed.
Yeah, no, I bet. I'm curious too then, for anybody that would be listening to this that would be interested in having their own chickens, I guess what would be a good budget to have to start, say, 20 birds, like you're saying, with the Salatin tractor trailer that you built? Yeah, I guess what would be the expected cost someone would have if they wanted to start that on their own?
So they want 20 meat birds or like 20 egg layers?
He's saying meat birds, like with the Joel
Yeah, I guess
Salatin.
so. That should be more clear with that. That's my
Oh, no, it's
broilers
okay.
and then laying hens. I guess because I know some people would want just the eggs, but then others would want to do the broilers.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the eggs, and we'll go into the broilers. Our egg layers are a lot cheaper to feed because they free range all day long. So they have a master coop that we let them out every morning. They have feed inside their coop,
Which they barely touch.
Which they barely touch because we have a giant compost pile that we build up when we clear out the pens from their the wood chips, and then also
processing the chickens.
We'll bury the bones and all that.
The offal too.
Yeah, and their intestines, the track, the offal under there, and so they'll dig through and they'll eat all that stuff, and it cuts down on their feed. So I mean, I probably go through about 2 or 3 bags a month on them, which is really, really good. Now,
because there's about 20 back there, right? 20.
No,
chickens.
We don't have 20 chickens
with the ducks and everything.
I'm not talking about the Rhode Island Reds.
I'll talk about the ducks too. The geese.
Probably about 15.
Okay. Yeah.
And then with the broilers, since we don't have grass, it's just weeds. They don't eat a lot of the weeds. They'll pick off like the little buds off of them, which is not much. We go through but we have more than 20. So if someone had 20, they'd probably go through about half a bag a day. And so you're looking 30 days, 15 bags. Bags about $21.
Lord.
Unless they buy it in bulk.
Which we do. Our feed people love us because we show up and they're like, this is going to be good.
So you're looking at about $3.15 a month for 20 birds. That's if you have
nothing.
If you have no grass.
Yeah.
So if someone has grass, they could probably cut that in half. So it'll probably be about $150 a month in feed if they actually have grass.
Yeah, which is again why we also chose the Cornish crosses because it's 8 weeks instead of 21, like a lot of the other broiler breeds, like the Freedom Rangers and the Jersey Giants and stuff like that.
And then I guess what would be the extra cost too for building the actual chicken tractors, and then also with trying to make sure that they have the water set up, all of that's really good. I guess what would those costs be as well?
So I tried buying the gravity feed water, so it's not on the ground, and they like to jump on it and it just splashes all over the place, so they just go through water.
Yeah, they went through a 5-gallon bucket within 2 hours because they were literally laying in it because they were trying to keep cool.
So we had to switch over to the ground waterers, which are 3 gallons each, because the 5-gallon wouldn't allow the lid to close on top. And so those 3-gallon things are $34 each. And then we have the long food trough that we bought from Premier, where we had our electric fencing as well. So the food trough was $95. The electric fencing was $295. The solar charger bit box was $150. And then, so with the chicken wire and the chicken mesh, I bought it a bulk roll, so it'd build multiple because it's cheaper price per penny. But the wood and then the roofing for the chicken tractor that holds 50 birds, it was about $350.
So it'd be like
for all the materials.
So it'd be like $150 for one for 20.
Yeah, if they went with a smaller one that only did 20, you're probably looking at about $150 in materials to build the chicken tractor.
Yeah. But again, this is also where community comes in because we just met a couple who they're moving. So they're like, hey, come by our farm and just pick whatever you want. And we'll be over there tomorrow, I think, or the day after. And they're going to give us probably 40 2x4s, like actual 2x4s from the old building that they had to tear down.
Yeah, it's from their oak. I mean, not oak, they're cedar. So they're super lightweight, but they're
And sturdy.
super sturdy and durable and water resistant. So you don't have to worry about it rotting. And so we have about 30, 40 of them. We just had to take out all the screws and nails out of them and then just reuse them.
Yeah. With a lot of stuff, it's how much work you're willing to put in on the back end of a project. Because we can go get like brand new fun wood at Home Depot for money, or we can get, free wood and do a little bit of work on the back end and have a pretty much free chicken tractor.
I mean, just goes back to just putting yourself out there and trying to understand or learn and talk with the community. Because that is a good point that I haven't really even thought about, is whenever you move, there's so many potential opportunities to where they could help you not only save money, but just so many other headaches too, with all their wealth of knowledge. So that's pretty awesome.
Okay. Yeah, and people are so, like, I don't know if this is every small town in Texas, but people here are so, like, giving. Like, they're like, let me help you. Because I think they can tell, like, we don't know what we're doing, but we try our best. And they're like, you're adorable, let me help you. Like, we're like, thank you.
I'm curious then too, before moving on, because I really want to talk about raw milk. Is there, I guess, any other things that you would like to add with talking broilers and laying hens?
No.
Cool.
I mean,
I guess then
treat.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
I already mentioned that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So with raw milk and how, I guess, congested you could say, and depending on the state with all the crazy laws and whatnot, what has been this process like trying to start selling and making your own raw milk from the start? Because I know, I bet.
Even in Texas.
Yeah, they make it extremely difficult to become a raw milk retailer. And so we're going to go the other route and just go through farm share.
That's what eventually we do want to be a grade A dairy. That's what we're working towards.
Yeah.
But right now we're just doing farm shares with raw milk.
Yeah, we're just doing farm share for raw milk because, one, we don't have a huge customer base. I'd say probably when we have about more than 25 people consistently buying from us, that's when we really need, because we're working on building the building, because they have really specific details on what the building needs to be considered a grade A dairy, which is ridiculous because it's so outdated. Mm-hmm. Literally, it doesn't even talk about lumens or wattage.
Or lighting.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Lumens or wattage when it comes to lighting, it says you need this many tall light candles.
10 long candles worth of light is what they say for lighting.
And so this information is so outdated that it's probably back friggin' in the early 1900s before there was electricity all over Texas.
Yeah.
And so when we were going to the different USDA buildings and talking to them,
and the ag extensions,
and talking to them, I was saying, well, do you know anybody that can help us figure out what this actually, how to become compliant to become a grade A dairy? Because this information is so outdated, I don't think that if we follow these instructions to the T, when the inspector comes out, that we would actually pass inspection because it's so outdated. And three of the people that we spoke to at the different USDA buildings are like, I have no clue. And they're like, you should go talk to this professor at the university. That's her specialty, is helping dairy ranchers. And I was like, it's pretty sad when the USDA, the
governing body
that wrote the law, or wrote the bylaw in there to become compliant, doesn't even know any other company to refer to for the current example to become compliant.
Yeah,
that's so ridiculous.
And I will say, like, as much as I love community, like the other raw dairies that we've kind of talked to, and we're like, hey, would it be okay if we just, like, if you sent us, like, we've contacted people in like Michigan, and like, can you just send us a picture of what your small dairy looks like on the inside, so we can kind of get an idea of what we need to do to be compliant with laws? And they're like, no. they're like, we don't want to give away our, I guess, like layout or secret. And it's like, these are people in other states and they don't want to.
Well, different states have different laws.
True, but we also contacted people in Texas who that I get more because they're like, they don't want people driving from their customer base because they have people driving like 2 hours out to them. And
well, they said you could schedule a tour, you just have to buy milk.
You have to be a customer, but I don't want to lie because I'm not going to be a customer. I'm going to be a competitor and I don't like lying.
Yeah.
So
I have no problem.
Okay.
That's still kind of a shame though, that to where with just the illegal raw milk consumption and just all the different, it just depend upon the state to now that just changes how, if you want to have raw dairy, then that, because I understand with these raw dairy farms not wanting to share that, and especially with, like you're saying, with competition.
Trying to get into it.
But that's just a shame because it should just be open to the free market and let that decide and not have, I mean, it should be legal. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Raw milk should be legal and these issues should not be happening. So it's a shame that they have to feel like that they have to keep tight to themselves and not share any of that information.
Especially like the raw milk farmer that's near us, they are next to a major city. They're next to Killeen.
And on the other side, Killeen.
They're next to Killeen, and so they would have everybody in Killeen and Temple buying from them, and then we're north, and so to get to them is an hour and a half drive because we got to go down and around. It's like, so we're not going to steal any of your customers. People aren't going to drive further to come to us.
Yeah.
And so
we just want to provide our community with raw milk, and it's not about safety either because legally we can give it away all day long. If it was about safety, you wouldn't be able to give it away legally, but we can. People can come to our farm, we can give it to them. It's fine. There's no laws against that. But once there's money involved, all of a sudden it becomes unsafe. And it's weird that two consenting adults can't agree to exchange money for food.
I didn't even realize that. So they're allowed to visit your farm and consume raw milk?
Yeah, no, we can give away milk all day.
Wow.
But we can't sell it. As the second money gets involved, that's when the legality gets weird. And also, it's the same thing. It's why are farm shares legal and you don't have to get a grade A dairy license, but grade A dairy, you have to get a license. Like, again, it's not about safety. If it was about safety, it would be like you have to have a license to do the raw milk, but it's not.
period.
Yeah.
So I guess, can you explain the herd share, the whole program of this?
So there's herd share, farm share, and there's another share. Basically, when you're doing a farm share, you're investing into that farm. And so that money is going to a percentage of that farm. So the more people that you have, basically they have a different percentage of what they can receive. So basically, like if you say, okay, if I have, I could cap out at 50 customers that can invest into the farm, because if I go past 50 customers, they have limited access to the products that is produced. And so the farm share guarantees them first on what's available to what you're producing. Same thing with a herd share. So herd share would be like, okay, I have this one cow, and I'm going to have there's two people investing in it because they don't want a whole cow, they only want half a cow. So they're investing into half a cow, and they own the cow, not the farmer. And so when it goes off to slaughter, you're slaughtering for those two individuals.
Let's see.
It's the same thing with dairy. Your cow produces so much. You figure out how much your cow produces a month, figure out how much that would, cost to sell, and then you figure out how much of a percentage someone wants of that.
Are there certain, with that then too, do you just have to do one application for that to legally be able to sell that through the program to actually get the money?
With the government.
No, you just have to have everything on your end, and then if the government comes knocking, you have to be able to provide that information.
Literally, you can type up your own
paperwork.
Again,
it's not about safety.
Yeah, so you can word it however you want, as long as there's the farm share and explaining in there and then you have the customer sign it, and you hold that record. So if the government does ever come knock on your door, like, look, part of this is a farm share.
Yeah, like if Sheila buys raw milk and gets pulled over and is like gets in trouble, Sheila can go, I'm part of a farm share. Or if she told on us, she'd be like, hey, I have a farm share at Fafo Farms. They would come to us and be like, we need to see Sheila's farm share. So we would pull out that paperwork.
Okay. So now I guess in the scenario that you continue to expand your customer base with this, and you've hit, say, 25 recurring customers like you were mentioning, and then you're able to build the actual building that's compliant, even though the people from the USDA don't know what they're talking about with all of that. So I didn't realize it was that bad.
Yeah, I'm just like, tell me what to do, please.
What are some other things that you'd have to really do? Are there a bunch of other applications you'd have to go through to continue doing to more retail? Or, yeah, I guess I know it's a very broad question, but outside of
talk about raw milk. So we just have to be grade A dairy certified to do retail. So we can sell. There's a meat market here in town that they're interested in raw milk buying from us, but that won't be until we're grade A dairy, in which we're trying to, because they have a lot of people constantly asking for raw milk when they go in there. And they only sell pasteurized milk, grass-fed pasteurized milk in their store. So we're hoping within the next 3 to 4 months that we can get licensed. We were going to build from the ground up on doing a structure to get compliant.
Building.
But since their information is so outdated, we're just going to repurpose one of the buildings on the property already. And so basically we're just going to have to clear it out and then make sure that the flooring that we put in is where you can wash it out. And then we'll probably do some white paneled metal roofing material, like the corrugated metal C-panels, because they have to be white. Literally in the paperwork, it says they have to have white walls. So we'll use that so it's easy to clean in the building as well. And so because we were originally looking at, it's probably going to run us about anywhere between $10,000 and $12,000 to build the facility. We could probably knock that down to about $1,500 to $2,000, just repurposing a building that we already have.
Yeah.
So with that then, and say all of that goes well, do you need to do any type of testing of the milk itself to?
Yes.
So what's that process
every 6
like
months
then?
we have to send it in a sample, and upon request we have to send in samples. So it's every 6 months or upon request.
What are they exactly looking for, and are they looking for certain things to flag?
They're looking for toxins in it,
pathogens,
and then just looking at the nutrients in it. Which I would be excited to get those numbers back, because then that's what you put on your label on the milk.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Trying to think
Yeah,
if I have any other.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying they give you a lot of data back, so that's good.
What other data do they give back? I'm just curious for all of that, because I don't know. With the conversation of pasteurized versus unpasteurized and all of the different bacteria and everything that happens and what gets changed whenever you heat up the milk. Yeah, I'm just curious, what all data are they giving back to you?
I mean, just like the vitamin K, D, E, and what are the percentages in your cow?
And also,
and so it would be based on like if they're 100% grass fed, or are you feeding them on pellets only? So it kind of gives you an idea on what you should be increasing on your cow to create better milk. And so it's a win-win, even though they're inspecting, and sometimes they may be trying to put you out of business because government hates raw milk. But it's a double-edged sword, in my opinion. It could be good, it could be bad, depending on, I guess, who's doing the inspection at the university, and then who is your what is the word I would use? Person that you communicate with at the USDA.
Your contact person.
Yeah, your contact person, if they're friendly or not.
Yeah, and they also do look for bacteria and anything that would make you sick because that portion is about safety. Which again, Clint's like, that's amazing. But it is a double-edged sword. But I rather know. But we drink the raw milk every day, and probably like half a gallon a day.
Yeah, me.
So why do you say that I would be drinking that much too? I love raw milk. So why do you say that the government hates raw milk?
Because it cures a lot of things that go with a lot of ailments that people have. And so a sick society is a dependent society. And so when your society is no longer dependent on the government, then why would you need to give them more tax dollars? Why do you need to give them more funding for healthcare? I mean, the goal is to get your community healthy so you're not dependent on the government.
Yeah.
And so as someone that has been a Republican for a very long time, it's like they're not helping the people. Democrats aren't helping the people. I mean, libertarians aren't even helping the people. It's all about division, and nobody's truly actually helping anybody. Once people wake up and realize that nobody's going to help you, you're going to have to help yourself, and that starts with getting your health in order and figuring out what your body needs, because everybody's body acts a little bit differently and there are different needs. Solve that, and once you're healthy, then you can start living your better life.
Yeah.
So with the people that you've talked to from the USDA, do you have that, I guess, similar feeling of just them not wanting to help you?
The ones in Austin, yeah.
Yeah.
The ones up here, because there is a USDA building and a little office in the next town over from us, and they all live local.
Yeah.
So they grew up on farms and stuff like that. So they're very helpful on directing you, because they're just the hub, and so they help the local farmers in this area, get them the contact information they need to go talk to the headquarters in Austin. So they're very helpful with that. But once you get down to Austin, good luck. I drove all the way down to Austin to find out they don't go to work. They work from home. And so the paperwork that I needed was in their office. I was like, well, can I go to the lobby of the office to get the paperwork? No, you can't go up there because no one's up there.
And this is after 2 weeks of emailing them.
Yeah, this is me calling. I've left multiple voicemails, emails, and I was like, I'm just going to drive down there. Come to find out, they don't even go to work.
They're still working from home because of COVID.
Do you have to deal with the USDA outside of the raw dairy, like on your day-to-day processes and everything that you're doing on the farm?
No, we submitted our application, and that was about it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty much just, you're good to go. You got the green stamp, and then they just kind of let you do what you want to do.
Yeah, because as long as you're not processing more than 10,000 birds, they're not going to bother you. And so, and I don't think we're going to get anywhere big enough to the point where they're like, we're seeing a lot of FAFO farm chickens, so let's go check this guy out.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever get at that point where we're on their radar, because we're never going to produce that many chickens.
No, we're really just focused on our local community. We did bring some chickens down to my parents and their neighbors, but and that was in Round Rock. But that's pretty much just because we wanted to bring them some stuff.
So I'm curious to transition a little bit just to the farm itself. What was the experience like whenever you first, I guess it could be also with milk too, but just when you had your first just glass of milk that came from your farm, and same for the meat birds that you had and the eggs. What was that experience like after starting it from scratch?
I found out that I still can't drink whole milk.
It's funny
because I'm lactose intolerant.
He can drink the raw milk if it's skim, but he can't drink from the cow.
So you got to separate the cream from it. And so I can drink skim milk raw, and I can drink whole goat milk raw, but I can't drink because it's heavy cream basically in there, and that's what causes my stomach issues.
Yeah, because I'm sure you know this, but goats are naturally A2, while cows you have to kind of figure out, is this cow A2 or is it A1, because of the casein proteins and the way your gut digests all that.
Yeah, can you explain that just for people that might not understand the difference between the A1, A2, and
I'm really bad at it, so this is like the Barney version. But the more differences your stomach has to process, the more confused it's kind of going to be, and it may be like, what is this? This is the Barney version that someone gave me. But when you have A2 proteins, your stomach's like, oh, this is just milk, and it goes like down like that. Again, very Barney. But it's just how your body isn't trying to differentiate two different proteins from one protein.
Yeah. So what's been, I guess this could be a question both of you can individually answer. What's been your favorite thing so far since starting FAFO Farms TX?
Hatching our own chickens.
Yeah, you probably heard it earlier, but we have 3 chicks right behind us. They've been quiet all day, barely making a peep. But of course, like once we're in here and we're talking, they're like, let's party.
We're always loud when I'm in here.
Well, yeah, because you're in here and they know you. But normally they're just quiet during the day. But so hatching chicks is your favorite?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mine is honestly milking the cow every morning. Our cow has a very big personality. Her name's Daisy. Our niece and nephew named her. And right now, unfortunately, she's in heat, which means she's like not aggressive, but she's like very pushy. But it's funny to watch her like push everything around with her head. She's like, I'm going to go knock this bucket over. I'm going to go knock this bucket over. And she's like, she'll come up behind you and like try to like nudge you forward. And she's like, let's go. She's very bossy. And it's funny to see their personalities come out. But like really milking her every morning is like, we do it really early in the morning, pretty much at sunbreak every morning. And I just love watching the sun come up over the property, over all the cedars, just sitting there. It's me, Clint, and the cow. And we also have a calf who follows us everywhere around too. So it's so wholesome. And it's like, this is not the way I grew up, but this is the way I definitely want to raise my children.
That's awesome. Do you feel more connected to just the natural world?
Oh, yeah. Like, our lives are led by the natural world out here. We're checking weather constantly. We're like, okay, what gear are we going to need if it's going to be raining in the morning? Like, where do we need? Because we do the rotational grazing. So our goats are like allergic to water. So if it rains, they break down their electric netting. They don't care. And they run for their goat pen, which has a...
there's a little shanty in it.
Yeah, as like a full shed. We have...
a full shed, a shanty.
Okay. But we have like A-frames because we're a little extra. So I'm extra. with the super like the amount of heat we had this summer, I'm like, we need cover for the animals. So we bought metal A-frames. We have A-frames that they can get in the shade if they want to, or they can lay on the side. But when it comes to rain, they don't mess with those. So they bolt out, they break into their goat pen. I even forgot what we were talking about. Oh, connecting to nature, yeah. So yeah, the rotational grazing too. Like, it's just fun to watch, and it's fun to like. I see birds every morning that I've never seen. Just like the quietness. Like maybe 2 or 3 people go down our road in the morning. When we lived in Austin. We lived on Harris Branch, and it was like thud, 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 thud. Like big rigs coming down the street all day long, and it's like.
And there was a little dip. So
oh yeah, there was a dip right next to our backyard.
So many cars have flown down that road and either hit it and then barrel rolled, or they've gone off into the side ditch and hit things.
There was like a water lagoon thing that someone ended up in.
Because we were beginning to learn how to homestead in our backyard in Austin, so we had like 33 raised garden beds. We had like 7 chickens at the time. And we're just in the backyard working on our garden at the time, and literally you just see the car fly up.
We saw it over a fence.
Yeah, or you just see him go up and then turn. And then so I'm like, well, that sucks. And so I just walk out in the front yard and walk around the corner. And I'm like, well, seeing if he's all right, but people already are pulling him out of the car. And luckily the fire station was literally 2 minutes up the road. So the fire truck was already coming. I was like, okay, well, they don't need me. So just turn around and went back to the house.
Yeah, we walked out there with a little first aid kit. And we're like, okay, everything's already handled. Okay, it's good.
But I mean, you're right. It is way more peaceful. Because I live in Austin currently, but whenever I was on the farm, it was about 2 hours outside of Pittsburgh. And after I ended there, I went up to Pittsburgh, and that was the first thing I remembered, just how loud it was compared to being on the farm. And I definitely missed that. Like you were saying with the birds, you just wake up because I just remember vividly waking up to just the chickens wanting to be let out, and then once you let them out, you just enjoy the serenity and nature around you. It's so beautiful.
And all the animals are so happy and grateful. They're like I'm not dealing with angry people all day who like have a whole bunch of stuff that they got to get through just to get through it, just to live because we live in a city. It's like I get greeted by happy goats in the morning, and our cow may be in heat and want to like nudge me along, but she's doing her little dance while we're walking to the milking machine.
Plus, I mean, living out here, like instant cravings of fast food gone because you're not seeing it. A lot of people don't realize all the signs that you see out there are marketed to make you hungry. So like the yellow and red, that's to make you hungry. That's actually been, there's a study on it that's proven that makes you hungry when you see it. And so I was like, I haven't craved In-N-Out. I haven't craved pizza. Like all this junk food that I used to eat all the time being in Austin and driving around the city, freaking selling solar. I was like, wow, I haven't craved. I mean, she makes me burgers, so her burgers are better than any burger that I've had at a fast food joint.
KNC Cattle, baby.
And KNC Cattle burgers.
Another regenerative farm.
With our own cheese. We put our own cheese in our burgers. So she literally has the patties, takes them apart, puts the cheese in the middle, puts them back together, puts them on the skillet.
I mean, that's what's so great. I mean, you're spot on because the farm. There's another ranch I visited in Colorado, and man, all the food they were making was food you can get in restaurants, like you were saying, with burgers and pizza, but with the good quality ingredients that you can actually get from these actual farms and ranches. It is night and day difference. Not only does it taste better, you feel better, and it's actually healthy. It's way healthier. You can make healthy pizza. You can make healthy burgers. You can make healthy raw ice cream. And
she's made her own ice cream.
It was a problem for a while. We were like, we didn't have dinner, I think, for a week. We just sat in bed and ate raw milk ice cream. We were like, I was like, we can't do this. I'm like, we're grown adults. Like, because we're grown adults, we can do it, but like, we should really be better about this.
Well, the same thing with it when we first started making cheese. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, he had cheese for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I was like, smoked jalapeno cheese is so good. And I for like the first couple of days, I was going through like half a roll a day. I was like, man, I can get fat again doing this. I can't do that. Because I mean, who's that comedian?
Owen Benjamin.
Owen Benjamin. Because he makes his own cheese, but from goat milk. And so, like, he was eating a roll a day, and he put on a lot of weight.
So with that, I guess that could be the last topic before ending with the goat milk and goat cheese, because I know you have the goat soap. Is in terms of trying to sell that too, is that a separate process that you have to go through, or how does that look?
So the milk falls under the same thing as a grade A dairy.
For the soap?
No, for the milk.
Oh yeah.
For the raw milk, same thing as a cow. So we just have to have the milking stanchion inside the building for the goat. For the soap, there's nothing. We don't have to do anything with the because it's not. You don't eat it. Even though sometimes when I'm saying goat milk, I'll say it'll like sound like soup, but I meant soap. And so people are like, you sell goat milk soup? No. Soap, my bad. Soap. You wash your body with it. Now, if you want to try to eat it, that's on you. I don't recommend it. Probably not going to taste that good.
No.
But yeah, so I mean, with our soaps, it's 100% natural. I mean, you're going to have your olive oil, you're going to have your castor oil, coconut oil. We put lye in it, so you get a little bit of lye in there. Shea butter. And then we let it cure for 4 weeks. Because the last thing we want people to do is be washing their body and they start burning because of the lye. So you're gonna let the lye burn out. It takes 4 weeks for it to fully process before it can be used.
I guess before I go then too, is there any other things that you two would like to share?
We do plan on doing like chicken processing classes. On our farm. We do farm tours too, so anybody that wants to come up and just tour the farm or come hang out, they're more than welcome. If it's going to be a hangout, we ask in advance to just contact us. Hey, we'd love to come out on like a Wednesday, Friday, or even on a weekend and come hang out for a couple hours.
Yeah, see what your farm looks like.
And then what else?
I just say community for me. I harp on this a lot. I'm like, please, like, no one talks to their neighbors anymore. Like, go talk to your neighbor.
Kind of hard for us to talk to our neighbors because they all have gates
and very long driveways.
But
we've met a lot of them anyway.
And no microphone pad on their thing, just a keypad to open the gate.
Yeah. Out in the country, you just stop and you talk truck to truck with your neighbor. You're like, hey, you're new in the neighborhood. Yeah, I know you.
But we do plan on going to all of our neighbors and giving them Christmas gifts. So we want to do like stuff from the farm, probably give them the goat milk soap, and then put some notes in there like, hey, if you want a free chicken, come over to Fefo Farms and get to know your neighbor. So yeah, we just want to connect with our community and kind of shift to local people here that are also doing farming to do a barter system, because eventually with inflation going through the roof, if you can be self-sufficient on your farm, because we're doing that too. There's little things that we're doing on the farm to where we don't have to buy chicken feed. And so I built this little compost bin where you throw your food waste in there, and it attracts flies. And then the larva gets in there and they can't get out, so they got to go through the tubes into a bucket. They die there, and you can feed that to the chickens instead of having to buy mealworms for your chickens. So it's actually working very well. We've had it for about a week, week and a half. I've got a 5-gallon bucket about that filled with maggots right now.
Which is really gross.
It's really gross, but it smells really bad. It's doing really good for the chickens. And when I'm able to move it further away from the house, I'll scale it out, get probably about 30 or 40 of those going. And that way we don't have to buy chicken feed down the road.
Yeah. And it's a super high protein diet.
A super high protein diet, and that's that's $500 to $700 that I could shave off of our monthly cost.
Yeah. And also, like,
awesome.
Again, this goes back to community and stuff like that. Like, if you need coffee grounds, like, you don't have to do it yourself. You can just go talk to your local coffee place. Like, we reached out to Black Rifle and Clean. We're like, hey, does anyone take your coffee grounds? Because we need a butt ton of coffee grounds. They're like, actually, no one does. They're like, we leave a bin here overnight and you just throw all your extras in. They're like, yeah. So it's just like talking to people. People are more than willing to help you. You just have to ask.
It's a 20 or a 10 gallon.
There were 20 gallons and it was filled halfway.
Yeah, a 20 gallon tub that we had, and it took us 2 days, but we filled half of it because you only want to fill half of it with coffee grounds. And then you do cardboard over that, and then you do the food waste on top of that. But I mean, it would have taken us like 6 months to 7 months to do it ourselves.
To drink that much coffee.
Talk to a local coffee shop, and you get plus coffee grounds are good for your garden beds and stuff like that.
And then also talk to your local restaurants about what do you do with your food waste, and also like ask them what oils they use, because if you're trying to be organic or regenerative, you don't want people who use seed oils to be feeding your chickens their food waste. But like, talk to your local restaurant. Be like, hey, what do you do with your food waste? I mean, if you don't mind seed oils, talk to any restaurant. But they are more than happy to give you their food waste.
It cuts down on their garbage costs.
It costs on their garbage costs, their rodent problems, their everything. Like, it helps them out. And again, it just creates a little circle in the community.
Yeah, because we found one restaurant, and we're slowly trying to work, because their employees, it's a new habit to teach them to put all the food waste into a bin in the back of the building. And so I've gotten a couple bags from them, but every other restaurant in town was already partnered with a farm.
Yeah.
And so this was the last restaurant in town. I was like, I gotta get it.
Yep.
And so I'm building a relationship with the owner. I've met with her a couple times. When I'm doing the Lions Club, I see her down there, so I talk with her. And it's probably going to end up being me that's going to have to train their employees, their not their waiters, but the bus boys, training the bus boys. So I may have to go in there a couple days a week once we really scale it up to get all their food waste, because they get about 1,000 pounds of food waste a week.
Yeah, and so like, again, that would cut down tremendously on our feed costs. Like, there are ways that you can cut down on costs, be a part of the community, and like help someone else out while they're helping you.
Because we would also, because all that food waste would go into our compost pile, and I was like, okay, well, if she gives us all this free food waste and we can create this great compost pile, and the chickens are breaking it up because they're eating through and scavenging through it. Next year, we'll have free compost for the community.
Yeah.
So we'll have the owner, she'll have first access because she provided the food for us. So to get all the compost that she wants for her garden. And just
That's so
give
awesome.
something back to the community.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just simple talking to the people that are around you. Because it's not only, like you're saying, you're helping them and they're really helping you. And it's regenerative in a way too, because you're not wasting food waste. It's going back to the chickens, which goes back to the ground and the soil, which and also helps us. It's just an awesome cycle. But then and then also just long term, as you build these relationships and as you build more compost, then you'll have that extra, and that helps with, you can potentially educate others, potentially being interested in doing all this. And so, yeah, it's really awesome. And it goes back to just the power of community, which I really love.
Yeah, that's like, I know our business model is kind of terrible, I've been told, but we want to educate people and get people into this. We want people to be able to be self-sustaining on their own. Like, I don't care if you come to our culling class and our processing class and you never buy a chicken from us again, because you are now on your own. You have that knowledge. You can help yourself. You can help your family. You can pass that on to someone else. I may lose a customer, but that person's going to go out, and it's kind of like you do a nice thing for someone or two people. They do a nice thing for two more people. So that's four people who have nice things. It's the compound effect. Like, let's help people. Let's get people self-sustaining. Let's help people do things, get healthy, do things the right way. It may be a little bit harder, but really it's a lot easier. And honestly, the hardest part for me is talking to people. I have social anxiety. That's why I look to him and I'm like, you talk. But yeah.
And I was a huge introvert before I met her too, which was kind of funny.
We've helped
thank
each
you all
other.
for joining. Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess
thank you.
The last thing I'll say too is, if for everyone listening and you use social media, you can find them on Instagram and Twitter at Fafo Farms Texas, or TX.
Yeah, we're Fafo Farms TX on everything.
Yeah, so we have Twitter, now X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Truth Social, and then what was that? Getter. But I don't post on Getter anymore because it was getting no traction. So we have all these social media.
We're trying to figure out what works.
We're trying to figure out which one has traction. And then once I said I was going to give it about a year with the social medias, and then I'll pick the top 3 and we'll stick with those.
I'd say top 2.
Well, you're going to have 2 social medias, and then you're going to have a video platform.
Okay.
So Rumble's going to be the video because we're getting away from YouTube just because they are censoring like crazy.
Yeah, they're actually going to start censoring raw milk stuff.
If you have any video with raw milk, good luck. Your account's going to be banned.
Wow.
Yeah, that's insane. One of the healthiest things on the planet.
I know I've been following you two on Instagram and Twitter, so anyone that's interested in seeing what's like starting from the ground up, those are great. Especially on Instagram, you guys have shared so many awesome video clips, so I highly recommend checking that out. And then also their website is fafofarmstx.com. Thank you again for joining.
No, thank you, and thank you for everything you do. I really appreciate it, believe me. The Regenaissance needs to happen.